Good evening, and you are welcome to another exclusive interview powered by NewsBand Television. Now, today we are going to be discussing political alignment towards 2023 elections, the value-added tax controversy, Nigerians' loan burden, and the 2022 budget. I am Augusta Nadi. And here as our guest, we have an aspirant for the 2023 presidential elections. He was the candidate for the 2019 presidential elections. He is a Nigerian political economist, a former deputy governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, a former United Nations official. He is a politician, a lawyer, and an author, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Professor Moghalu, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, as we move closer to 2023 elections, we are witnessing politicians defecting from one party to another, or in some cases, the formations of new party. Are these mere political positioning, or are we witnessing some political alignments of some sorts that enabled the APC to win the 2015 presidential elections?
Thank you. I think the political movements you are seeing, they're quite significant in a number of ways. First of all, you are seeing a movement from a lot of politicians from the APC to from the PDP to the APC. The reason that movement is taking place is very simple. It's mostly based on self-interest. It's mostly based on people who have some problems with corruption issues, trying to seek political cover in the ruling party, which of course means that the ruling party encourages corruption by being a place of refuge for people, facing allegations of corruption. And some people are also doing it because they think that the APC, being an incumbent party, will most likely win again. So that's one type of movement, but it is a movement based on the traditional political calculations. There's another type of movement that is taking place, and that is the movement I want everyone to watch, because it is the movement that could upset the whole apple cart. And that is as follows. The deterioration of security in Nigeria between 2019 and 2021, the economy has almost collapsed. People are very unhappy in Nigeria, not just with the APC, which has, of course, failed to deliver on any of its three cardinal promises. That is security, the economy, and fighting corruption. On all three fronts, they have failed. But beyond the APC, Nigerians are increasingly tired of the traditional political elite, which includes the APC and the PDP. With the PDP, many people consider the PDP an ineffectual opposition. They have not been able to be a serious opposition to the PDP. And so the impression has been created that they are just waiting for their turn to eat. So between the APC and the PDP, the situation in Nigeria today makes it clear that there's no salvation coming from any of these two political machines. And so you're beginning to see a certain movement of everybody else who is not satisfied with the status quo, trying to come together in some sort of third force arrangement. That is a movement I want you to watch, because it could spring a strong surprise in 2023. If the movement can be organized effectively, and if it can tap into the sense of hopelessness Nigerians are facing today, and offer people a clear plan and program to take Nigeria out of the woods. So, I am part of that discussion of the third force. What is it that can challenge the traditional political elite and defeat them electorally? It's not going to be easy. And one of the things you also have to watch is the debate in the National Assembly about the new Electoral Act. People are not going to accept anything short of electronic transmission of results because we want the elections to be transparent going forward. We don't want rigging and people claiming that they won elections when they rigged it. If you win an election fairly, transparently, that's fine. That's what democracy is about. And if you know that you're a Democrat, why would you be opposed to electronic transmission of results using all sorts of speculative arguments, trying to undermine the independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission by subsuming its decisions under the agreement of the National Communications Commission or under the National Assembly itself, which is an interested party. So these are unconstitutional. Any such bill would be unconstitutional because it would go against the Nigerian Constitution. And I believe it can be easily challenged in court. Now, we need to watch as the Senate and the House of Reps reconcile their two versions of this bill, and let us see what will come out of it. I hope it gives Nigerians the first hope of a real democracy since 1999. An election that we can be reasonably sure that the votes were tabulated correctly. So between these three movements, you may be seeing some very important transitions and upsets in the 2023 election. Because the only reason the APC and the PDP are holding on to the political space is because people are poor and they buy votes. People are not informed as electorates and as voters. So we need political education to free the minds of people. So anybody thinking that they will find good governance in the APC or the PDP, I'm sorry to say, there's bad news awaiting you. A leopard cannot change its spots, period. So you have to make a choice about whether you want to continue with the status quo and continue with the insecurity, the corruption, the poverty, or whether you want something new. You have to choose between politics for its own sake, but without governance, and using politics to elect leaders that can govern. There are two different things. The former is what has been going on in Nigeria. The latter is where we need to be going to. And 2023 is a make or break election for Nigeria, even for the stability of the country. When you look at all the arguments over rotations and so on and so forth. So the whole argument about justice and equity inside the democracy is also an important discussion to watch, because democracy is not the same everywhere. It is a basic principle, but it has various forms in various countries. In Switzerland, for example, there's a rotational presidency in the constitution, and that's a recognition that Switzerland has 3 or 4 main ethnic blocs, and it's a confederation. So power has to be shared equitably. So Nigeria faces this type of decision. And then you have some people just talking about, oh, it's a game of numbers, because it's a very convenient argument to be making at this time, when at other times they were making the arguments about zoning and about regional rotations. So I'll stop there for now. There are important movements afoot, yes.
Okay, still talking about political movements, you have declared interest to contest for the 2023 elections. Which of the political parties appeal to you, or are you planning to build a political coalition of your own?
Well, thank you. I think the time is rather short for me to seek to found a new political party. And my view of this is not just about myself or my ambition. I want to be part of a group of people who want real change in Nigeria. So I want to work as part of a team. I don't want a lone race. I want to be part of a coalition that seeks to take power, if it is possible. You always have the option, of course, of going it alone, if circumstances demand that. But, you know, there's not enough time to start forming a new party. And I am more interested in being part of the forces that want real change in Nigeria rather than the status quo of the APC and the PDP. I mean, never say never. If the APC or the PDP called me today and gave me the ticket, signed, sealed, and delivered, I would seriously look at that. But except they radically, except they bring out a radically different type of candidate, none of those two parties can save Nigeria. If they were to offer someone like me the ticket, it then means they are now serious about saving Nigeria. But there are many vested interests in both of those two parties that makes it practically very difficult for someone like me to take their ticket. Because, yes, they've been at this for a long time, and their own agenda is not necessarily my own agenda. So I look more towards the third force and the politics of transformation for Nigeria and educating our people along those lines.
All right, now the Southern and Middle Belt Alliance, SAMBA, recently condemned a statement credited to the Director of Publicity and Advocacy of the Northern Elders Forum, Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed, boasting that the Northern Nigeria will retain the presidency in 2023 because they have the numbers to lead Nigeria. Now, SAMBA, in their own press statement, referred to the Northern Elders Forum remarks as reckless, careless, and insensitive. What do you think about the statement by Baba Ahmed?
I would advise Nigerian politicians generally, not just specific individuals, but everyone involved in Nigerian politics, to avoid inflaming the Nigerian political space with division or divisive words. Or divisive mindsets. I think we should be looking at Nigerians as a whole when we look at Nigeria's challenges. There are two main political parties, I often say, in Nigeria, regardless of the APC and the PDP and others. And that is the politicians on one side, that is the traditional politicians, and the people on the other side. On both the politicians' side and the side of the people, you will see people from different ethnic groups and religions mixed up. The Nigerian political elite is one class. And whether it means it includes Northerners, it includes Southerners. The poor and the masses whose lives have been immiserated, whose hope is being extinguished, they are also from the North, from the South, and everywhere else. So it's not useful talking about power and leadership in Nigeria from the perspective of ethnocentric, conversation. And I think, for me personally, I think it's a bit disappointing. I think we should look at Nigeria as a whole. The people of the North are the poor. The North is the poverty capital of Nigeria, and Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. So whether power comes from the North is irrelevant. What has the 46 years of Northern Nigerians been in power out of Nigeria's 61 years of independence? What have those 46 years done for the citizens of Northern Nigeria? Not much, as far as I know. On educational standards, they're behind the South. Terrorism that is the center of terrorism in Nigeria today. So these arguments about, the North must hold power, the South must hold power, we should look at it more from the perspective of how do we unite and unify Nigeria, and how do we make the sacrifices necessary with each other and to each other so that our union can survive and actually thrive. So I believe in justice and equity, and that is the basis on which Nigeria's unity should be built. Nigeria's unity should not be built on any part of the country thinking, or some individuals thinking, that any part of the country is the political master of the country and the others are slaves. It is not true that the North has the numbers. Let me be very clear. President Buhari tried to become president 3 times with an almost uniquely Northern base of support. 3 times he failed. The only time he succeeded was when he went into an alliance with some politicians from the South. So anybody who tells you that Northern Nigeria alone can elect a Nigerian president is not telling you the truth, or the person himself or herself is misinformed. So that I can tell you practically, it's not, every presidential candidate needs support across the whole country. I have said I would like to run for president, and I will be seeking support in the North as well as I will be seeking it in the South. I'm not going to say that my support should come only from one part of the country. Then you're the president of that part of the country, but you should be president of the whole of Nigeria, including even those who did not vote for you. So I have a different view of these things. My vision for Nigeria is about how our young people can become prosperous, how we can create wealth for our youth, how Nigeria can be stabilized and move forward into the 21st century. I am not interested in all these ethnic arguments. To me, they're a waste of time, and they are not what will take us to where we're going.
Okay, but let's still talk about the same press statement. In that statement, Samba, that's the Southern and Middle Belt Alliance, also said that without the Middle Belt, such numbers accredited to the North is mere political posturing. Because according to Samba, the core North cannot boast of numerical strength to win the elections without reckoning on the strength of the Middle Belt. Now, do you think that the Middle Belt, okay, do you think the Middle Belt and other Northern Christians should work with their Southern counterparts to produce fresh and effective leaders for the country?
If I say that, then it means I'm making a sectional argument. I believe that it is for politicians who are seeking office to define their strategies and see how they can get votes across the whole country in different permutations. But it is mathematically correct that without the Middle Belt, the North, the core North, does not have the numbers to deliver the Nigerian presidency. That is obvious. Even with the Middle Belt, you still need support from the two different divides, the North and the South. So my own vision for Nigeria is to be a transformative president who has support from the North, support from the West, support from the South, and support from the East. That is my vision. That is my agenda. And I will be seeking for support across the whole country. That's what I can tell you, speaking for myself.
Right. Now, do you support for the major political parties to zone the presidency to the South?
Now, there is an informal rotation of power in Nigeria. That is obvious. It happened in 1999, and it happened in 2007. In 2011 or 2010, because of an accident of death, Jonathan became president. But in 2015, when he tried to go for a second term, there was a very strong feeling in the North that it's the turn of the North to have political power. And, the campaigns were waged, the sentiment was strong, and Buhari was able to win. After 8 years of Buhari's governance as president, it is better for the stability of Nigeria for a transformational candidate. I'm not talking about just rotation for the sake of rotation. The number one problem Nigeria has today is very low quality of leadership, regardless of whether the person comes from the North or the South. Nigeria's political class have not been able to deliver for Nigeria, and they will not be able to deliver for Nigeria. So that's the number one thing we should understand. So it's not just about where people come from. But if you want to now talk about just equity, fairness, inclusion, I think we should combine the search for merit, capacity, vision with a sense of inclusion. And that would favor, I think, a candidate that comes from the South. That's what I would say.
All right, now let's talk about your past experience. What were the challenges you faced in 2019, and how do you hope to overcome them in the 2023 elections?
That's a very good question. In 2019, I was running against the currents. I was running against the wind, but it was still necessary, I felt, for me to present my vision of Nigeria to Nigerians as a whole. And as you will remember, I did not run in 2019 as an ethnic candidate. I was not an Igbo candidate for the Nigerian presidency. I was a Nigerian candidate for the Nigerian presidency. And in 2023, God willing, that is what I will be. I am not an ethnic candidate, and I don't think I ever want to be an ethnic candidate in Nigerian politics of the presidency. Now, in 2019, the fundamental factors that worked against my candidacy were three factors. One, the reality that many people felt it was still the time of the North to hold on to power, whether through Buhari as the incumbent or through Atiku as the main opposition challenger. Two, the APC and the PDP were at the height of their political dominance of Nigeria in 2019. It is not so today. Three, money. I did not have sufficient funding to wage the kind of campaign I would have liked to wage. And even with the little resources I had, many people in Nigeria believe that my presidential candidacy in 2019 made a very strong impact and statement. In politics, there are many kinds of victories, and you build up your performances and your outings into the ultimate victory. Buhari ran 4 times before he could become president. So the fact that I didn't make it electorally in 2019, for me, is not discouraging at all. The important thing is that today I am a political factor in Nigeria. I represent a certain vision, I represent a certain trend of thinking, and I am unapologetically on the side of the youth of our country, because it is their future that this is all about. So these were the 3 factors against me. In 2023, there are many factors in my favor now. Even when you look at, even though I say I'm not an ethnic candidate, and I am not one, even in my mind, but because I know that the politics is still geo-ethnic, the fact that there's a lot of strong sentiment that the presidency should come from our part of the country is a helpful factor. That's practical. And as a politician, if it works to my advantage, I will accept it. But I'll continue to say that we need to move beyond just thinking about ethnicity and move to who can actually do the job of being the president of Nigeria. And I believe that I can offer Nigeria transformational leadership into the 21st century as a modern leader with the capacity to manage Nigeria's economy, to unify Nigeria as one country and a stable country, and to restore the standing of Nigeria in the world. So that's one factor. Number 2, the APC and the PDP are imploding. They are having internal crisis that is very serious. And while they will, of course, I believe, likely survive and come into the 2023 election, they will be much weaker. Both parties, not just one of them, both of them, they will be much weaker in 2023 than they were in 2019. 3, the fact I mentioned at the beginning of this program, that people are tired and fed up with the poverty. People are fed up with the kidnappings and the terrorisms and the banditry and all sorts of nonsense going on that has made Nigeria, life in Nigeria, cheaper than the naira to the dollar. People are looking for something different. This is also another factor in my favor. 4, we are looking for money because money matters in politics. I didn't steal any money. Unlike a lot of people running for president in Nigeria today, I do not have the support of stolen state resources. That's the big difference between me and many of my so-called competitors or other contenders. So we're going to go to the people. If you want change, help to finance my campaign. Because if I become president, I became president because of you. Anybody who comes and gives you money to vote for him will not serve you when he becomes president. He will serve the interest of that money, trying to steal enough back and to have profit on top of what he or she invested. That is not my model of politics. So money is important, but the Nigerian people are going to have to understand that they themselves have a responsibility to finance the kind of candidates they would like to see to win an election. Don't just be be part of the surrender brigade. Oh, Kingsley Moghalu would be a good president, but he doesn't have money. So what do we do about it? You can contribute money to his campaign. If 1 million people contribute 1,000 naira to my campaign, do you know what it means? I would have enough money to do anything I want to do to wage a strong campaign. So it's not that difficult. It's just that people have been brainwashed into a certain way of thinking, and we have to get out of that in Nigeria. So there are a lot of factors in support of my aspiration in 2023, which were not there in 2019.
Okay, remember that you can join the conversation simply by raising up your digital hand, and I'll try to accommodate as much questions and comments as possible. Now, let me ask you this. As an economist, you understand the burden of debt Nigeria is currently facing. How did we get here, and what is the way forward?
Well, Nigeria is now, Nigeria now has a total public debt of $87 billion. 62% of this is domestic debt, and 37% of it is external debt. Nigeria is over leveraged. Some people think Nigeria's debt is sustainable. I don't think so. I think that it's not sustainable because we cannot continue to pay 90 kobo, 95 kobo, 98 kobo out of every 1 naira we earn servicing debt. If it was you as an individual living hand to mouth like that, do you think you will be able to survive? Why do you think Nigeria will survive with such a revenue to debt ratio? It's horrible. So I think what has caused this is laziness and incompetence in the management of the Nigerian economy on the part of the Muhammadu Buhari administration. And I've said it before, the federal government of Nigeria today under Buhari is a very lazy government. And that is why they are always borrowing. They're borrowing as if borrowing is going out of fashion. But remember that he that goes a borrowing goes a sorrowing. Who is going to pay all this money they're borrowing? It's going to come from 2023 mostly. So I think it's wickedness and callousness for the government to be borrowing like this, to hand it over to other people after they would have left power in 2023. So the omens are not good. If we continue to borrow like this, we're heading towards a sovereign debt default, and that would have massive consequences for Nigeria. Right now, there is no money to spend on development, no money to spend on building proper hospitals and giving people proper health insurance and health care, no money to invest in education. The government cannot keep its agreement with ASU, and the universities are on strike most of the time. How can our young people have a future with this type of situation, whereas all their money is going to paying foreign debt? This is just not sustainable. No country can develop this way. So the government of President Buhari has underdeveloped Nigeria multiple times over with this massive debts that they're borrowing for what they say they're borrowing for infrastructure. Give me a break. The infrastructure they're borrowing for, where's the money that infrastructure is earning to repay this debt? And how much of that infrastructure do you really feel everywhere in the country? So this is just an excuse. A lot of those contracts that are awarded are inflated. No question in my mind about it. There is also the fact that you don't have to be borrowing. You can use public-private partnerships to undertake infrastructure projects. Why don't they do much more of that? But instead, they're borrowing a lot more, a few instances of public-private partnership, but that should be most of the way we develop our infrastructure in Nigeria. So it's just not a good thing. It's a bad situation, and it's getting worse.
All right, before I allow the first participant to ask his question or make his submission, let me ask you this. What do you think about the VAT controversy that's currently making the news?
Well, there isn't much to think about it. It's very straightforward in my view. The Constitution does not provide for the VAT taxes to be going to the federal government. So there's no doubt in my mind that the legal decisions that have empowered state governments to collect VAT are legally founded. Now, I have no doubts that this matter will get to the Supreme Court. And I hope that the judgments will be based on law. If they want to put judgments that are based on just politics, it's a different matter. But legally speaking, I don't see much to be controversial about in the VAT controversy. You know, every part of this country should strive to be self-sustaining, you know, and every state in Nigeria can be self-sustaining. But again, because of the excessive powers and dominance of the federal government, which, you know, totally undermines fiscal federalism, that's why you have a situation where the federal government is inside our nose, collecting taxes they should not be collecting so they can redistribute to everybody. Robbing Peter to pay Paul is not a sustainable path to economic development for the whole of Nigeria. So I think that the VAT, states controlling their VAT will become a wake-up call to many states in this country to work hard to generate revenues from within their own economies and their own systems. But many states have become lazy, you know, because of the income from petroleum, because of the VAT, federal government collecting VAT and redistributing every day, every month. They just go to the FAC meeting, the Federal Account Allocation Committee meetings, and collect money to sustain their states. So the situation now is that many states cannot survive without that fiscal allocation every month. That's not a federation. That's why Nigeria needs to be constitutionally restructured so that people can generate their own wealth and contribute part of it to the maintenance of the federal government, but keep most of their wealth for their own states or their own regions. That's how Nigeria will develop, not this, you know, feeding bottle federalism and over, you know, extremely powerful federal government, and that everybody is working for. But their development cannot reach the grassroots because everything is coming from Abuja. So that's my view of the VAT situation. It's a straightforward thing to me.
Okay, remember that you can join the conversation simply by raising up your digital hand, and I'll try to accommodate as much questions and comments as possible. I have someone hand up, Marcel. Marcel, the platform is yours.
Thank you so much, Augusta. Prof, I quite agree with you with the trajectory you're heading, and you've pointed out strategically that funding is a key determinant in Nigerian electoral system. Elections handover date to be 2023 May, so most likely elections would happen between 2022 into early 2023. If you take it from now to when you think election will happen, we have less than like a year. So I presume that I believe in your dream of a crowdfunding, and that is the only thing that can wrestle power from these people. We need to by now have seen a fundraising platform for you, and we need to by now have seen the numbers, and the numbers would have built the required confidence and also sent the required jilters into the spine of those that think this country belongs to them and belongs to their cycle. So if you have built that platform and there's a way to donate, maybe you should let us know now so that we can, anybody that wants to key into it will key into it. That is on one part. And if you have not, please, it's a matter of urgency. We need to begin to see the numbers roll in for you to build that level of confidence across the country that the funds are there. Now, my second question is this. In 2014, 2015, we saw a coalition. And in this year, you're also talking of a coalition. My problem is not a coalition. It is what the coalition presents. Because it is a coalition that took out the incumbent president and that brought Nigeria into its current nails. So I hope the coalition that is coming up will not also give us a candidate, because we understand that Nigerian president is probably the most powerful president in the world. And once he comes in, he can decide to do whatever he likes. I hope the coalition will understand that we need not repeat what happened in 2014, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please continue.
Okay, I completely agree with you. It's not just about a coalition. The importance of a coalition is to bring people together. But even more important is to present the kind of candidate that if he or she wins, will be able to govern and to govern well. So I take your comment totally on board, and I agree with it. And I will be making that point to other members of our discussion groups that we're having now to create some sort of coalition. But I'm going to be, announcing my political party platform soon. And also, we have already started organizing fundraising. So I'll be making more announcements about that very shortly. But if you have a pen, take note of this account number at Zenith Bank. And that is account number 100-594-1833. Zenith Bank account number, Kingsley Moghalu, account number 100-594-1833. That is our fundraising platform for now. We're developing other fundraising applications, and we will be launching them, within the very near future. But at this point, you can straightforward send in any contribution you like to our bank account we're using for now as our fundraising platform. So that's what I will say on fundraising. So thank you for those comments, Marcel. I agree with you.
Okay, we just had a question from the comment section, and the question says, does Nigerian have election finance law? Are you aware of any finance law that the Nigerian government have?
Well, under the Electoral Act, of course, there are some aspects of it that deal with electoral finance and funding. So until it is amended, it remains the extant law. And one thing I can tell you about that law is that its provisions kick in when a candidate is formally nominated by a political party and presented to INEC. That's when the provision, right now, Bill Gates can run into me on the streets and give me $1 billion. It's nobody's business. And I can use it however I like, and can give me $1 billion. And I can use it for the messaging, for the election, for advertisements, those kinds of things. So that is what I can tell you about the Electoral Finance Act, finance laws. They apply when this real season comes. But there's a lot of work to be done before the season. That's work in promoting voter registration. That's work in advertising the need for people to actually vote. These things these are bipartisan, in fact, non-partisan things, but they will help democracy. And I believe they will also help the candidacy of someone like myself, because we want more young people to enter the voting pool. And we want more young people to go out and register to vote. Who they vote for is their decision. It's not by force, So we need money for all these kinds of activities. We need to organize on the ground. We need to set up units in 774 local government areas. It is money that will do it. So, and this has to be done now, not in June or September of 2022. That's why we need support now. Financial support is most useful to us if we get it now, within the next 2 months. That's when it will be most useful to us, for us to be able to organize, to be competitive.
All right, remember that you can join the conversation simply by raising up your digital hand, and I will try to take as much submissions as possible. Now, we also have another comment at the comment section, another question rather. And person says, what is your policy or manifesto regarding fiscal restructuring?
Yeah, but I have just said it, that, when I become president, the restructuring of Nigeria is a constitutional exercise, which should be done by the National Assembly and the state assemblies. But the president's role is very important. The president commands the bully pulpit, and his language, his support for such a restructuring, a redesign will be very important to its success. So when I become president, I will clearly support the constitutional redesign of Nigeria so that Nigeria can work better for every part of Nigeria. When we talk about Nigeria, I want to tell you that I am very, very worried about the North, about the northern part of our country, the terrorism, the insecurity, the poverty. So we want a situation where the North can be much better off than it is today, so that the North and the South can see, the future together from the same prison of creating prosperity for all our citizens. It does no good for one part of the country to be focused on economic well-being. One part of the country is not, and is wallowing in poverty, and the political elite in that part of the country continue to control them and manipulate them by telling them that power has to belong to us, whereas that power is not serving the masses of the poor in the northern part of the country. So, only constitutional restructuring can help the North and other parts of the country to actually achieve prosperity. Because when we go back in history, who were the people who championed federalism, fiscal federalism? The Sardauna, Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto. He and Awolowo were the main champions of federalism. Zik was a reluctant convert to federalism. He wanted a unitary system of government. So today, when you hear some people saying, oh, the North is opposed to restructuring, it's not true. It's not true. If that was the case at some point in the past, today, many political leaders in the North know and understand that, restructuring will actually be very beneficial to the northern part of the country. There are over 40 solid minerals in the North. And if they are developed, value added before exporting, not like what we did with crude oil, the North will become an economic paradise like Dubai. So, and that can only happen in a restructured Nigeria. So there are many reasons why we all should support restructuring. And as president, I will.
Okay, I can see Okoye hand up. Okoye, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Augusta. Thank you, Professor Moghalu. My question is, at your time at CBN, you helped to implement the non-interest Islamic banking. As you can see in the country, there's a lot of agitation because of marginalization. Don't you think that that sort of program get people thinking that there is a lot of things given to the North while the rest of the country is being neglected? Again, you said
yes.
You care so much about the North, about the poverty there. Do you think is the right thing for the rest of the country to then be waiting for the North to catch up economically, or should the rest of the country force them to catch up? I don't understand what your argument about, in that sense. And if you're president, is that sort of program that you'll be implementing to help the North so that we know where you're coming from?
Okay, very good. Let me answer your question, and I want you to take note of my answer very, very carefully. I do not believe that the rest of Nigeria should be waiting for any part of Nigeria. We cannot suspend progress anywhere. We can be walking and chewing gum at the same time. We want every part of the country to make progress, including the North. And I believe that the constitutional restructuring of Nigeria will help the whole country, including and perhaps especially the northern part of Nigeria, contrary to the conventional wisdom that some people are spewing out that it is against the interest of the North. That's the point I'm trying to make. Restructuring Nigeria is in the interest of everybody, including the North. So that's one. Number two, I, as president of Nigeria, will be focused on the whole of Nigeria. I'll be focused on governing on the basis of equity, justice, and inclusion. Now, that is the same in terms of politics as it is in the same sense of economics. We have to give every part of Nigeria a sense of political inclusion. We also have to give every part of Nigeria a sense of economic inclusion. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. You talked about Islamic banking. You see, the non-interest banking under Islamic jurisprudence that was introduced was simply a development finance, a financial inclusion policy, because many people were not using the banking system because religiously they had opposition to interest rates. And since there is already a practice that exists in some countries, we decided to introduce this to encourage those people to come into the financial system. Many people who are using those non-interest banks are not necessarily Muslims. Many Igbo business people are using Islamic interest banking. Go and check. So the second point I want to make to you is that some people were thinking, oh, this is part of some Islamization agenda and all of that. And I have a question to ask you. That policy was introduced in 2012 or so. How many millions of people have become Muslims because of it? We are just a polarized polity. And everything that people do, even professionally, is subjected to unnecessary emotional and political interpretations. That fear has not materialized.
Why call it non-interest Islamic banking?
Yes, hold on, please.
Everybody.
Yes, it's called it's non-interest banking, but in our rules we have provision for non-interest banking under Islamic jurisprudence and non-interest banking of other types. I want you to get the distinction. So there are different types of non-interest banking. If you go to the Bible, interest is frowned upon in the Bible. So if somebody, but it happens that a non-interest banking tradition that is biblical has not yet been codified, whereas the non-interest banking under Islamic jurisprudence has been codified and practiced in many countries. So that's the point. That's why we made that distinction. But it's really, the whole idea is just non-interest banking, period, from wherever you're coming at it from, whether it's Islamic or non-Islamic.
Okay, let us go to the next participant. Chima Christian, your hand is up.
Yes, good evening, Prof, and thank you for your presentation. So my question is this, and it stems from an experience, because shortly after Mr. Oshomole Adams served as the leader of the Labour group, I think NLC then, and he announced after that he was to run for office as the governor of Edo State. I was one of the people that criticized that move. I had assumed that office was too low for him, that he should have gone for the leadership of the nation, which is aspire to become president like you're now aspiring. Events would happen. Thankfully, he got that mandate. That mandate got renewed, and he served for a period of 8 years as the governor of Edo State. And then he served for a period of, I think, another 3 years or 4 years or so as the national chairman of APC. Within that intervening years, if Adams Oshomole is on the ballot today, my mind, I will not think twice before voting no for president of Nigeria. So, and then don't take this question personal, but I would have thought, I've seen your CV and you have a very rich CV, but it doesn't account for much political experience to my mind. I see the work you've done with the United Nations, especially the countries that United Nations had to sort of govern indirectly. I've also seen the work you did with as the deputy leader at the central bank, but that political experience is not there, so to say. So you're asking me to take a huge gamble that I would have taken on Adams Oshomole back in the days if had said he was running for president. So wouldn't it have been more convincing that you had served in a lower capacity, say governor of your state, or something that would have shown people, that would have given you the opportunity to practicalize some of the theories you've been espousing, and they are wonderful theories, by the way, so that gives us some measure of confidence and then gives you the contact, network, and reach to now aspire for higher office. How do you respond to that, sir?
That's a very good question. It's a valid question, and I would like to answer it. And I want you to, again, to listen very carefully. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that one of the strongest qualifications I have for the presidency is that I have not been part of Nigeria's political class. That is number one. Because you have to ask yourself, what has the political class and all the experienced politicians, quote unquote, experienced? Experienced at what? Experienced at stealing public funds, experienced at rigging elections, experienced at governance incompetence, Is that the type of experience you would have liked me to have? So what have they done for you, these so-called experienced politicians? The answer is not much. Nigeria has gotten poorer, less secure in the last several years, all under the hands of quote unquote experienced politicians. Nigeria has a problem of governance and leadership, but instead is focused on politics without leadership, focused on politics without governance. And Nigerians are clapping for these political clowns. It's wrong, because you and I are the people suffering. So it is not, to me, a disadvantage that I have not been part of the Nigerian traditional political class. It is one of my strongest claims to the Nigerian presidency for 2023. And I want you to go and mark it down. Number two, when you talk about the presidency, what is the function of a president? You have to ask yourself that. It's one of the problems we have in Nigeria because we're not doing proper leadership selection. Like I said, we're just busy doing politics. In a normal country and in a place where people are informed voters, you have to ask yourself, if somebody is seeking the office of the president, what are his or her qualifications? What is the suitability of the person, including even character, for the role that he or she is seeking? The Nigerian president has four main jobs. Number one, nation building. Number two, the economy. National security, 3. 4, foreign affairs. These are the four functions of the president. How many people in Nigeria, when they're electing a president, think about these four things? But that's why you elect presidents that fail. They cannot unify the country. Instead, they divide it. So they cannot build a nation. They cannot secure the country. Maybe because you're thinking that security equates to building a military, having a military uniform, or having been a general in the army. Security is far much more than that. They cannot manage the economy because they may not have ever read an economics textbook. They cannot project Nigeria in the world because they don't have the global exposure that is necessary to do that effectively. On all these four counts, my career has prepared me for the Nigerian presidency. Nation building in the United Nations, I have fixed broken nations that are having the same kinds of problems as Nigeria is having today. That is a direct preparation to be president of Nigeria. I have been at the commanding heights of the Nigerian economy at the central bank. I have been involved in international security operations, involved in intelligence and all sorts of things, cross-border operations, peacekeeping. I've been involved in international diplomacy. That's the job of the president. So I am ready. My experience has prepared me for the presidency. Number 3, my vision for Nigeria can only be achieved at the level of the presidency. That is the role that has the responsibility to unify Nigeria and make it prosper. So if I can ask you, why, if you studied engineering, I can ask you, why didn't you study medicine? Why didn't you study law? You studied engineering because that's what you want to study. I want to be president because that's where my vision and interests lie. I don't have to go and become a counselor just so that I satisfy that criteria that, oh, I've gone from. That happens in countries that are well-developed democracies. What Nigeria needs now is a leader and somebody who has a technocratic competence to govern the country economically, security-wise, and the heart and mind to build a united nation. That is not necessarily created. That level of competence is not necessarily created by being the governor of a state or by being a senator or by being a councillor. So I want you to look at my answer very carefully, and you will see that that assumption is actually not a tenable assumption for someone like myself. If I had no experience at all in international diplomacy, in economic management, in international security, or in international nation building operations, then you can say to me How do you want to be president of Nigeria when you have no experience? That's a different discussion. But you can agree that I have relevant leadership experience. But your only problem is that I have not been a local Nigerian politician. And I'm saying to you that that is the #1 item on my CV, and I have no apologies to offer. I'm very proud of it.
Okay, remember that you can join the conversation simply by raising up your digital hand, and I will try to accommodate as much submissions as possible. I have Elder Tango Ugochukwu here. Elder Ugochukwu, please go ahead.
Thank you, Augusta. Prof.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Just some little few questions, because you have been #2 person in Central Bank. Central Bank is not a common institution in the nation. What magic would you do about Naira to rescue Naira, to balance Naira? Because I know the rate of Naira during your time. Naira was dropping by, during your time, Naira was losing value, but it wasn't as speed as this time. The rapid way Naira is losing value now is getting alarming. What magic will you do? Another question again. Can I finish all?
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah.
Another question I have for you. Let me use our common Nigerian language. Your fellow politician will say you are not on the ground, and you know the system they're operating. Yeah, how can you cope in with Nigerian politics?
Very good.
Which you know. Another question I have for you again, in terms of security, because nothing works without security. How do we balance? How do you follow up the security issue? And the last question again for you is, this money, all this borrowed money, how can you cope when you come to power? How can you cope to service all this debt or pay the debt? Because the debt is alarming. And for you as a banker, do you find any reason of why they took all this loan?
Well, let me start with that question. I think from what I answered before, it is very clear to me that these loans are not necessary. They are loans that are being taken because the federal government is incompetent to manage the fiscal aspect of our economy, and also because of laziness to seek for innovative ways to meet Nigeria's funding challenges. So when I become president, I will work towards a debt moratorium. Nigeria will have to stop borrowing so that we can assess our situation and see how to move forward. We will explore various alternative possibilities for raising money domestically to finance the operations of the federal government without having to mortgage Nigeria's future into debt slavery. And there are several ways that can be done, but it takes competence, it takes proper training and intellect to be able to do those things. And political will also. I want to mark the importance of political will. And one of the problems that traditional Nigerian politicians have is that because they sacrifice and worship at the altar of political correctness, they are not able to do the things Nigeria needs done. So they don't have political will because they're interested only in politics. They're not interested in the economy, managing Nigeria's economy well. So the decisions they need to take, they will not take it because they think that may make them unpopular. But they don't understand that if they explain to the people why certain things need to be done, communicate with the people, and those things are done transparently, not doing it for corrupt self-enrichment, then the people will have confidence and work together to rebuild the economy of Nigeria. On the matter of the Naira, when I was deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Naira was mostly between the band of 150 Naira to 165. For the 5 years we were in office, from 2009 to 2014. And I want to tell you that that was a very excellent performance. So there was no point, the Naira was not So, occasionally it will go outside of the band. They may skittle towards 167, 168. But for those 5 years, it was just in between that band. And we did a lot of things to make it so, to stabilize the Naira. We created reforms that opened the economy to investors. So people were bringing in a lot of dollars from investment. So the pressure on the Naira was not so much because there was not scarcity. The problem with the Naira today is just a matter of demand and supply. There is no dollar, period. And if there's too much Naira chasing too few dollars, the price of the dollar will continue to go up. The price of the value of the Naira will continue to go down. It is just elementary economics. Number two, Nigeria does not have a productive economy that exports finished goods to earn forex. Nigeria is an import-driven economy. And when you are an import-driven economy, the only thing you rely on to import is dollars and other foreign currencies. But you are not generating revenue in dollars other than crude oil, which is 90% of your foreign exchange earnings. So when the oil market sneezes, Nigeria catches pneumonia. And the market has been coughing, not just sneezing, for the past several years. So why would the Naira not suffer the way it is being battered today? So when we were there also, not only did we encourage investors with very transparent policies, you can bring in your capital and take it out anytime, the central bank was also independent. We were not being controlled by Aspirant. That's a fact, I can tell you. It's not that the politicians did not try. They tried, but we told them, stay on your lane. The law says, the Central Bank Act says, the bank shall undertake its responsibilities without seeking external approval or influence. No external body can influence the bank. The decisions we made were decided on by the board of directors and the Monetary Policy Committee and the Committee of Governance. And I was a member of all those three governance bodies. I was a member of the board of directors. I was a member of the Monetary Policy Committee. We brought inflation down to 8% before we left in 2014, single digit, from very high double digits several years before. So we reformed the banking sector. I was deputy governor in charge of financial stability, and I led the implementation of the Nigerian banking sector reforms. We stabilized the banks. We made sure that no bank failed, no depositor lost one kobo. We safeguarded your livelihood and your life savings. So this is what we achieved. It is huge, and that is why the Naira was stable. But it doesn't mean that the Naira, the fundamental problem existed even in our own time. But fortunately for us, we took all these other measures, and the price of oil was high, at an average of about $100. Today, the age of oil is passing us by. Nobody is talking about oil anymore. The future is electric. The future is robotic. The future is mechanical. The future is digital. And we're still busy talking about oil. So that's the problem we're having. We're living in the past, and the world is moving on. So that's the point, I will say. Then to your question about being on ground. I'm on ground more than you realize. Much more than you realize. The political season has not opened officially. And we intend to be on ground even more strongly. That is part of why we are now opening up our fundraising platforms. Give us money and we will strengthen our structures in the 774 local government areas. I didn't steal the money anywhere. What I'm doing is not comfortable for me to do. And I can be doing a million other things other than what I'm doing. I'm a very accomplished person. And if I say it, my bicycle will not get lost, to translate an Igbo phrase. So I don't have to be doing this. I'm doing this because of my love for my country and because I'm concerned about the poverty and insecurity. The least that people like you and everybody else can do, if you actually believe in what I'm saying and what I'm trying to do is to support it. Everybody cannot just go and sit back and be waiting for me to be the Superman that will change Nigeria. Was I the person who spoiled Nigeria? I was not the person who spoiled Nigeria. So what I'm doing is just sacrifice, self-sacrifice. That's all. I don't want to tell you what I have sacrificed in my political career. But the citizens themselves also need to sacrifice. All of us have to sacrifice, you know? So all of us have to make this sacrifice together so that our country can become a better place. Let's not leave it to anybody and telling that person, oh, you're not on ground. If you think I'm not on ground, ask me, what support do you need to be more on ground? And I'll tell you, write me a check. So if I want to use the Igbo language, Flavor sang a song, and I'll put it in Igbo.
Okay, let us go to the next participant.
So that's I see somebody's laughing, but I'm sorry to get down to the brass tacks. So Flavor said, if you don't have money and you're writing a check, you're wasting your time. How is the check going to cash? So people who want change should finance it, support it. That's how we will write the check, and the check will clear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let us get to the next participants. Rank Pam Jr. I'll ask you to unmute, kindly unmute and make your submission.
All right, thank you very much, Augusta. Prof, thank you so very much for the things you have outlined this very evening. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yes, keep talking, I'm listening. Yeah, keep talking.
Okay. Today we have serious voter apathy. The youths are tired of going to queue up. After queuing up, they vote, sleep till night, and at the end of the day, they are not comfortable with the process. How would you ensure that our votes would count? For those of us who are beginning to like your tone and your mindset. Secondly, sir, two major organizations, INEC and the judiciary, within the Nigerian setup, they are supposed to ensure that elections are free, fair, and credible. You have been in the arena for some time. What is your assessment of INEC and the Nigerian judiciary as it stands? Do you have confidence in their conduct as free, fair, and reliable organizations in the Nigerian polity? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. That's a very excellent question, and it goes to the challenge of the moment. And that is that a lot of young people who make up 67% of Nigeria's population. I want to tell you something about your votes counting. Regardless of whatever happens, the reason that votes are rigged in elections are rigged in Nigeria and votes don't count is because the voter turnout has always been relatively low, most of the time. If, as we had in 2019, we had 84 million people registered to vote and only 28 million people voted, why would the election not be rigged? Do you think that if 50 million or 60 million people had voted, do you think it would have been easy to rig the election? No. Rigging is easier when people stay at home and don't vote. If today 40 to 50 million young people, just supposing that they say that we want Kingsley Moghalu to be our next president, and 40 million people come out and cast their thumb for me and my party, no Jupiter, quote unquote, can rig that election. I want to tell you, you can overwhelm the rigging machine by voter turnout. So that is number one. But beyond that, there is right now a discussion, a legislation that is at an advanced stage. And we are fighting, pushing, advocating that that legislation must include electronic transmission of votes, which it does, but only optionally. And the Senate is trying to tell us that electronic transmission should only be used if the National Communications Commission tells us that they have adequate coverage, or if the NAS, the National Assembly itself, agrees. Wherever have you seen a player wanting to be the referee? It doesn't happen. So both elements of that vote, of that draft, are unconstitutional because it undermines the independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And that independence is enshrined in the Constitution. So if it is challenged in court, it ought to fail. But we will get the final decision when the Senate and the House of Reps, harmonize their two bills, because the House of Reps did not go that way. So let's see what the harmonization process brings out, and let's see what law they come out with. And our demand, minimum demand, is that there must be at minimum, electronic transmission of votes. This will help to give a lot of people in Nigeria, especially young people, the confidence that their votes will count. And if we are committed to democracy, that is what all of us should be doing, including the members of the National Assembly. I can't understand somebody who was elected into the National Assembly now voting against democracy. But that is what we're seeing. So the power should belong to the people in a democracy, not to politicians. Now, talking about INEC itself, INEC's performance in the 2019 election was quite weak. But in the time in between, INEC is showing signs that they want to improve on their performance in 2023. And I think we should encourage them and give them the benefit of doubt. So I wouldn't say I'm confident until I see their performance. I think we have to be evidence-based, but at least we have to recognize their expressed intention to do better this time around. And we will see with how they conduct elections in Anambra and how they conduct elections in Ekiti, the off-cycle elections. We will see that will give us a test run for 2023. So that's my assessment of INEC. We want to see an improvement from the 2019 elections, which, according to all international observers, just did not meet the right standards in terms of, both the logistics, the transparency of election of votes, of the transparency of counting, and transparency of the results. I think there were problems everywhere, but let us hope that we can get INEC, and that INEC is sincere about wanting to improve its performance. And I think we'll put it to the test. So that's what I have to say to that.
All right, let us hear from Oyeka Mbakwe.
Good evening, Prof.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can't hear you very well.
Good evening, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, I'm not sure where I am now, but it's okay. You have spoken up about the third force. I know we had something like that the other time, the other election cycle, and now we're having it again.
It's not the same thing. And I'll tell you the difference.
You will tell me. But
yes.
What I'm interested in, I wanted to ask, because we didn't do well the other time, is it possible that during this time that the third force can merge together and then further seek an alliance with any of these, either of these two large political parties? Is it possible?
Okay. First of all, let me give you a very big difference between what you referred to last time and what may happen in 2023. In 2019, there was a group that called itself, first of all, there was the Conference of United Political Parties, CUPP. Yeah. So that was a separate group. Then there was what we call the pact, presidential aspirants coming together. But that became more of an individual-based thing rather than a party-based thing. We argued in 2019 that we should only arrive at a consensus after the parties have selected their presidential candidates. Then the parties come together and agree on who the standard bearer should be, and the others will step down. Some people inside the party refused and kept pushing for a selection to be made before the parties had. So this was, it was an unnatural order of things. And that's one of the reasons it did not work. There were also issues of transparency in the selection process, which is why I myself walked away from it at the last mile. Because even if you contest in an election and go up the way, all the way to the end, and if the result comes out and in an election and you believe the result was rigged, you have the right to reject the result. That's a fact. It happens every day in elections, and then you go to court. Sometimes you win, sometimes you may not win. So that's, I don't want to, what is being discussed now is a very different thing. It's the possibility of several parties coming together in a coalition to present a single presidential candidate, or even possibly merge as one party for the purpose of confronting the APC in the presidential elections of 2023. It's a very different thing. If it happens in 2023, I hope it will be a much more mature process, very different from what you were talking about in 2019. Now, you talked about the possibility of such an alliance aligning with yet another of the big parties. The problem with that is that the mindset of the big parties is not the mindset of the politicians who are seeking change, possibly through such a third force. But in politics, you can never say never. You have to leave all the options open, and everything is all open to negotiation. If the PDP, for example, were to want to work with such a group and accept that the candidate nominated by that group will be the common presidential candidate, fine. But what is the chance that the PDP will do that? Almost zero. They will say, we are the PDP, and our candidate will have to be the candidate of the opposition. But if it's an unpopular candidate, if it's a candidate that has a lacuna, if it's a candidate that has all sorts of cobwebs, why would anybody latch on to such a candidate when the candidacy is not credible? You see the problem. So this is it, but I don't want to speak too definitively. These are all open questions. We will take each day as it comes. Thank you.
Let us hear from Chikwendu.
Thank you very much, host or hostess. Professor Moghalu, I thank you very much for this professorial lecture. I always say to people, those people who give good speeches, that if good speech were development in Nigeria, you would have given it to us today. But thank you. Yeah, I am one of those who are worried that Nigerian leaders never speak of industrialization. They talk about development, all of those in abstraction.
Yeah.
And Nigeria is shooting towards 200 and something million people. And I do not know of any country on the planet with that type of population potential moving forward for its people without industrialization.
Yes, sure.
It's not possible. And you've mentioned it indirectly, the idea of value added. You stop there. So my question is, what will you do for Nigeria's industrialization? Because that is the only savior.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that question. You talk about good speeches. If it is your assessment that I'm able to give a good speech, I thank God. Because there is no country in the world that is making, in Nigeria, they call it blowing grammar. They say the man is blowing grammar. But let me tell you that every country in the world that is making progress is led by a man or a woman blowing grammar. That's a fact. Whether it is the United States, whether it is the UK, whether it is Germany under Angela Merkel, wherever. Go and check. Ghana today is led by a man blowing grammar. When he speaks, he commands your attention and you stop and you listen. So I am never ashamed. And in fact, I take it as a compliment if somebody says I've made a good speech. But beyond making a good speech, I want you to go and look at my track record of leadership. Everywhere I have worked, I have delivered results. In the Nigerian presidency, it will not be any different. I have the ability, I have the capacity. God gave it to me, and I developed it also myself. So if I can speak and I can do, they say talk, not do. So, and that's fine. That's what we need. Now, on industrialization, I am very particular about industrialization. I had to answer the question the way I was asked. So now that you've asked about industrialization, I'll address you specifically on industrialization. It is a number one priority. Without industrial development, no country can rise. That's why I said to the people who were saying Africa rise, and I said, my friend, shut up. Africa has not risen and is not rising to anywhere. Africa is emerging. And that is why I wrote a book called Emerging Africa. I don't know if I have a copy here. Yeah. So this is Emerging Africa, where I addressed the questions you are raising. And I explained that without developing industrial capacity to manufacture value-added goods and export them, Africa cannot rise. So what will I do about industrialization? I will bring industrial policy to bear. Industrial policy means creating incentives that help manufacturing to rise in its contribution to the GDP. So one of the things, and that's one of the things about the Naira, if you allow the Naira to find its market value, it will crash further in the immediate term. But one of the things that will happen is that when it becomes too expensive to import, a lot of Nigerian businesses will begin to go into manufacturing for export. You create incentives for them to go and look for dollars by manufacturing value-added goods. So we're going to work on infrastructure that supports manufacturing. So for example, as president of Nigeria, my electricity policy will be that all the electric power we have now, we should shift it more towards industrial production centers like Lagos, Kano, Ibadan, Aba, Onitsha, Nnewi, Ogun State. 6 or 7 centers will become the priority of our electricity infrastructure plan. Why? Because anything manufactured in these towns or in Nigeria broadly, 40% of the cost is electricity costs. So if we can bring their costs down, it means that the products they manufacture and bring into the market will be much cheaper. That way, the goods imported from China will no longer be cheaper than what we are manufacturing at home. And we will, of course, put appropriate tariffs on goods coming in from outside of the African continent, because we now have an African Continental Free Trade Act. So the infrastructure focus will be on supporting the development of the manufacturing sector. Then we will use trade policy to create incentives, export subsidies. We will use export subsidies. We will prioritize those who secure export orders for finished goods for allocation of foreign exchange. and just capital support. So there are several things. I'm just giving you a few examples. Then the question of the education system. We're going to change the education system in Nigeria when I become president. And it's going to be focused on producing at secondary school level, skilled manpower in industrial processes, technical schools, production, engineering, those types of things. The technical skills that drive industrialization will be focused upon in the education system. These are some of the things that we're going to do. Of course, we'll create special export zones and those types of things. Those are all incentives also. So industrialization will be a major economic focus. People talk about the economic team. Let me explain to you. My economic team will have about 5 members, not more. And 5 of them will be full-time members, not part-time like we have now. You cannot run an economic team based on part-time membership. Managing the economy is a 24/7 job because the economists who are in that team have to be looking at every aspect of the economy daily. These plans that we have made, are they working out in practice? How is it panning out? If not, how do we tweak it to make it actually work? That requires a full-time economic team, which will have at least 1 member who is an expert in industrial policy. 1 member will be an expert in agricultural economics. 1 member will be an expert in macroeconomic. 1 member will be a development economist. You don't need a monetary policy person in the economic team because the monetary policy is the exclusive preserve of the central bank. So this is how I will compose an economic team. I will compose it with intelligence. I'll compose it with strategy, all directed towards the question you just raised. How do we industrialize in the shortest possible time? And it will still take at least 10 years to develop. No, whoever will be the next, I'm not telling you that if I become president of Nigeria, all the problems will be solved. No, it is that I will lay the foundation because Nigeria is in deep doo-doo. That's the fact. Nigeria is in a sunken place. And to get it up will take time.
Moghalu.
We have the next participant. I think he's already talking. Says Bob Ganzama.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Your presentation gives one a lot of hope that we still have people that have brains to turn around this country. But the major challenge that we've had in the political space of this country since 1999 has been that mediocres have taken over the whole political system of this country, and they have empowered themselves and have blocked entrance of brains into the political game. However, with people like you coming up, there is some hope. The major challenge then is, how do you penetrate or how do you reach out to especially the 3 major regions or block of people that have had generations of mistrust, political mistrust for each other? I'm talking specifically of the North, the Southwest, and the Southeast. These are the major blocks. And if you are not able to combine or garner support from at least 2 of these blocks, you are heading nowhere in terms of political winning in this country. And the matter has even been, the situation has been worsened over the past 6 years. Since 2015, the divide has widened and the wall has been solidified, and there's so much mistrust based on ethnicity and religion. How do you hope to weather through this challenge? Lastly, still on the issue of the election process, INEC. Since 2015, we have observed that the election law is seriously flawed. Despite all efforts to make all the necessary amendments to create an atmosphere for free and fair election, the current government, and I specifically want to refer to President Muhammad Buhari, has refused to accept to do the necessary amendments that will ensure free and fair election. You will recall during the last assembly, the amendments was vetoed 3 times, and we went into the election with a bad law. You will recall that the major phenomenon that has been introduced since 2015 in our election process is inconclusive, a new vocabulary. How do you hope to climb and achieve success with all these challenges? We are praying for you, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. First of all, on the sectarian divides in Nigeria. That is why I feel very strongly that I am going to be able to heal our country, because I'm coming to leadership with a vision of unity, a vision that rides and transcends over ethnic and religious divides. And that is because, diversity, the management of diversity is second nature to me. Working in the United Nations for 17 years, I managed and led teams from 200 countries on earth, different races, different religions, different countries. That's why I think that the presidency of Nigeria in 2023 calls for someone with this type of background. And the way to unify Nigeria, the most important way to unify Nigeria is to be fair and equitable to all parts of Nigeria. That's number 1. Fairness. 2, inclusion. Bring them in, and that's part of fairness. Bring the North, the West, the East, the South, everybody. Give everybody an opportunity to be part of the nation-building project. Make it very clear that there is no hidden agenda. And that brings me to the second very important way I will heal Nigeria: transparency. One of the reasons I've been very successful as a leader is that every group I have led, they see transparency in my actions. They see that I have no hidden agenda, not agenda will agenda. No. When you are transparent and everybody sees, you create the basis for unity by saying to everybody, what do we all agree on? Once everybody agrees to something, they are morally bound to what they have agreed to. So you must bring them to a place of consensus. It's called manufacturing consent or manufacturing consensus, to use the Nigerian language. And that is how a nation is built. It takes time, but I want to begin that process by being fair to all, by being transparent, and by making sure that every Nigerian is equal under the law. Not that some people are more equal than others. No, once you allow that, you begin to create distrust. So it's not that difficult to heal the wounds that have been, built into Nigeria's polity today by very bad and divisive leadership. It can be done, but it requires somebody who has the heart, the character, the personality to do it. Somebody who does not think of himself as just an ethnic group or as some religion. No, I think of myself as a Nigerian, and I'm running for the presidency to make Nigeria work for everyone. Whether you're in Kauranamoda, whether you're in Sapele, whether you're in Abeokuta, whether you're in Nnewi, that's not the point. The country has to work for all of us. So you have to create, as president, a world view, a common ambition that all of us can agree on, so that we are united by that common ambition, which is higher than the things that divide us. That's how to play. That's how to play this. That's what leadership calls for. And that's what I will bring as president of Nigeria. And then you talked about, I think you talked about INEC and the Electoral Act. And, yes, there are many vested interests in Nigeria which have fought against the emergence of a true democracy through an amended Electoral Act. The battle is still on. We are hoping to be able to succeed against these vested interests. With the new Electoral Act, hopefully it will contain a provision for electronic transmission of votes, which is the minimum that all stakeholders will accept. So that's my answer to the question.
Let us hear from the next person. Chinedu, your hand is up. And remember, you can join the conversation simply by raising up your digital hand. I'll try to accommodate as much questions as possible. Chinedu, your hand is up.
Yes, hello, Prof. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Well.
Okay, well, I just want to ask a question that very few people usually ask in a forum like this. As you may know, you have worked in organizations, international organizations, private, public. Every organization and institution in developed country, they make use of data to guide their actions. The use of data enables us to see where we're coming from, where we are, where we're going, and to see if any program that we are implementing is making progress or not. So my first question is, if you're elected as a president, what do you think is the role of data, science, and statistics in governance? Because I have come to realize that a lot of African countries do not necessarily use data to guide their actions. A lot of all these decisions, actions are based on sentiments and emotions. That's one. Then secondly, see, you're one person, and we have realized that the problem with governance in Nigeria is, is multifaceted. And, I believe that there are a lot of factors that actually, or variables that significantly affect the ability of a person to govern very well. One of which I consider the people that you work with.
Absolutely.
Friends, relatives, appointees. So my second question, what kind of people are you looking to appoint to work with you? Because I believe that the first role of a good leader is to appoint like-minded and competent people. And that's the only way the work can be accomplished as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that question very much because it plays into one of my strengths. And that is the ability to assemble competent teams. I said it when I announced on June 1 that I would run again, that if I win, I want to govern Nigeria with a dream team of capable people. I want you to know that already 1/3 of my potential cabinet is already in my head. And many of them will be very surprised because they may not personally be people who are known to me. They may be or they may not. But I have assessed their records of success in all the assignments they have had in their professional and political lives. And I have seen that they have been people who have a tendency to achieve results. I will surround myself with people like this as president of Nigeria. The first job of a leader, 70% of the job of a leader is picking the right team. 30% only comes from the leader's own vision, which you give to the team and they run with it. So this is an area that I take very seriously. I will try to put square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes, at all times. And even though we know the realities of politics in Nigeria, but even in accommodating political realities, we will still have an eye on performance. In my office of the president, there will be 4 offices, 4 units that will drive my governance. One is the Office of National Strategy. 2 is the Office of Risk Management. 3 is the Office of Talent Management. That's the personnel side. And then 4 will be the what do you call it? The performance management office. That is the office that will measure the performance of people throughout the federal government and manage that performance. So I'm going to come with a strategic governance perspective into the presidency. And you also said it's not one person. And I agree. Again, here is how. That this is not about me alone wanting to be president. We are going to be having a lot of people in our movement who want to run for governor, Senate, House of Reps, State Assembly. So we're going to try to have many people who think alike in different parts of governance in the country. So that's another practical way. So yes, I agree with you. The team is 70% of your success. And I will not joke with that realization. No amount of political pressure will make me appoint somebody as Minister of Finance or as central bank governor, somebody who is not qualified for that role, who has not demonstrated capacity and competence for that sort of job. I will never. There's certain positions that are so sensitive that you cannot politicize them. You see, and this is the problem. Every appointment in Nigeria is the subject of politics. It's done purely for political considerations, not for governance considerations. And that's why governance fails. It's all politics and no governance. On your question on data science and statistics, again, you're hitting close to home. What gets measured is what gets done. That's the same. And so I do believe in the primary role of data, as the main informant in decisions. That's why we're not being governed. I keep saying it. Nigeria is not being governed. Nigeria is just a political football field. And the football is the people of Nigeria. Nobody is governing Nigeria. If they were governing Nigeria, they'll be making proper use of data. They'll be making proper use of statistics. So I'm going to prioritize the accuracy of statistics in whatever we're doing in our country as part of governance. And we'll make our decisions based on those numbers. Numbers. Thank you. Good question. I like it.
All right, let us hear from John Lagos. John Lagos.
Yes, I'm actually John, and I'm watching this program from Lagos. Okay. But my name is John Njuma. And I want to fault the thinking of the professor concerning the devaluation of the Naira. According to the professor, Kingsley Moghalu, I hope I'm pronouncing the second name correctly.
Sure.
Our Naira has to be devalued because we are earning less from the sale of crude oil. But looking at it, say, from 1999 to date, the value of the Naira has been going down. From the days of Abacha and Abdul Salam, for example, when our foreign reserve was about $9 billion, the exchange rate remained about 88 to 90 steadily throughout the reign of the former dictator, the late dictator Abacha. But from 1999, when General Obasanjo came, the Naira has been on a downward fall, even when we earned more, from the sale of crude oil. So it is not consistent. It is not correct to say that because we make more dollars, then the value of the Naira should increase. And when we make fewer dollars, the value, we even have clips, to show central bank officials saying that they deliberately kept the value of the Naira low, in order to attract foreign investors. He called it the I&E window or something to that effect. So for me, a major component of who I'm going to work for will be how that person manages the value of the Naira. The Naira has been bastardized. And if we continue, I was in trepidation when you were saying that we should allow the Naira to go on a free fall. when I remember clearly what Zimbabwe has passed through.
I think you're
Venezuela
misquoting me. I think you're misquoting me, but I will clarify. If you can
yeah,
land, I
just want to quickly say that when you watch videos like the late Professor Milton Friedman and also Professor Thomas Sowell, you will see that a major damage, the greatest damage can be done to an economy is by the central banks. Devaluation has never done Nigeria any good, and we are looking for a president who will hold on, who will actually make the value of the naira stable, and help the economy to grow.
John,
I wish I could say this in a better way, but I feel.
John, thank you very much for this question.
Right.
You've asked a very important question, and I want to be very clear. I don't want to be misrepresented about what I'm saying or what I'm not saying. It is wrong to create the impression that I'm saying that the naira should just be devalued endlessly. No. What I have said, if you have listened to me correctly, is that devaluations in Nigeria have never benefited the average Nigerian, and they have only imported inflation. The reason that is so is because devaluation alone is not the answer. Devaluation must be accompanied by trade policy that incentivizes exports. If you notice, some advanced countries undertake strategic devaluations of their currency, like China. They do it so that their exports are competitive. People think it's cheaper to buy from them. Therefore, they balance their trade in a way that affects the economy positively. That's the point you're missing. I do not believe in devaluation for the sake of devaluation alone. Devaluation, if it has to be done, and the forces of the market in Nigeria have consistently forced the devaluation of the currency. Whether even under Abacha, it was at a time, there was a time 165 kobo was $1. That was, so $1 being 88 naira under Abacha, if you compare those two times, it's like crazy. The fact of the matter is the bottom line. Nigeria is not producing and exporting value-added goods. That's the reason why its currency constantly is depreciating. And it does not have enough income from oil to build foreign reserves of like $100 billion. If Nigeria could build a foreign reserve wall of $150 billion or $200 billion, its currency would be stable, even if it was a monoproduct economy. But the problem is that when you're a monoproduct economy, when the price of that product drops, your foreign reserves drop. And once your foreign reserves are under threat, the market responds, because the foreign reserves are the way they measure the value of your currency. Because you're not producing anything else and selling. So this is the point. So on devaluation, I am saying that, okay, look at all the measures that the central bank has taken to hold the value of the naira. When the oil price crashed in 2014, late 2014, what did the central bank do? They created a fixed exchange rate. That was one of the reasons that the naira is in the situation in which it is. If they had adjusted according to the market, the naira would not have fallen to where it is today. It is this statism. The state is too present in the management of Nigeria's economy, and it does not have the tools to create the outcomes that it wants. The market does not respond to political commands. The market does not respond to nationalistic propaganda. The market does not respond to military orders. The market responds to the dynamic of the market, which is demand and supply. That's a fact. So I'm not sentimental about it. I'm not saying that we should just go and be devaluing the naira. I'm saying that if devaluation is forced upon us, we should turn it around for our benefit by making our products and exports more competitive. That's all I'm saying. But because we have never matched money, foreign exchange policy with trade policy, they have never been linked in this country. That's why we keep devaluing and getting no benefit from it. So I want you to be very careful about what I'm saying. I don't want to be, in Nigeria, we're very quick to label people, and their ideas. But I want people to look carefully at what I'm saying. And I'm not being sentimental at all. If we could keep the Naira at, like I said, when I was at the central bank, it was 150 Naira, 160 to the dollar. But the fact is that today on the black market, it is 570. Despite all the central bank intervention, despite all the government is saying, the price of the Naira keeps going down. And I'm addressing the fundamentals. It is about the nature and the lack of diversification of the Nigerian economy. Nationalistic talk will not change that reality. Thank you.
Let us hear from John Azu. John.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Yes, I would like to ask you a question relating to the issue you've already treated, but I just wanted to throw more light. The area of value addition. You've mentioned it. We've been confronted with this challenge over the years that 76% of Nigeria's agricultural commodities get rejected in the EU, in America,
yes,
and parts of Asia.
Very good.
And we see that even Ghana is trying to make their products competitive, such as sesame seed, cocoa, cashew, and fruit juice. And in the CBN, where you were at the hierarchy, you designed this Anchor Borrowers Program. And my understanding is that it was to create linkages between maybe the processing companies and smallholder farmers, and then so that agro products can have value, can have improved values. But we have not been able to benefit this. So the effect is that Nigeria continue to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 billion importing food, especially at the beginning of this administration, 2015, Nigeria spent over $7 billion importing food. Yet we waste agro products in Nigeria, especially in the middle belt, Benue, Plateau, and all these cash crops. We wasted over $9 billion worth of, we lost $9 billion worth of revenue from agricultural products because of these weak linkages. Now, I don't know what is the problem. We hear that, I don't have proof, but we hear that some people get married to more women. Some get chieftaincy titles when they receive these so-called anchor borrowers loans. I'm not sure, but we don't know why this policy has not been able to mutate into a value-added goods that can be exported. And that could be why some people are opposing the VAT, this VAT controversy. Some states feel that they have no products that they can tax, which can make them to generate more revenue to be competitive as a state. So please, I would like you to address that. And also, what can we do to save some of our agricultural products like tomatoes, onions, fruits? They are being lost on a daily basis, especially in Plateau, Benue, parts of the South, so that we can become a productive and competitive economy. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You've addressed something very important, and I want to answer you. First of all, the Anchor Borrowers Program was not, I'm not aware, it was developed by the central bank after I had left. So it was not our direct policy of the Central Bank of Sanusi and myself and our colleagues. Please hold on just 1 second. Yeah.
Okay, while we're waiting for you, let's just take the last hand, and maybe you can just address both of them together.
Okay.
Joseph Sunday, Akinrele.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm speaking from Panama. Yeah, I came in late, but it's all good. I'll quickly. We know that we operate 3 tiers of government, and over time we have seen so many square peg in a round hole on all tiers of government. Prof, what are you going to do about this situation when you eventually voted into government? Because as government is the highest level of a company managing people. So as a head of a big company, what are you going to do about this? Because you might not get all these 3 tiers of government. As your political party might not win all the three tiers of government. What are you going to do with these other parties who might want to align with their party politics, not policy, now politics? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Prof, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, let me go back to the agri question. The reason a lot of the products from our agri industry are rejected abroad, there are 2 major reasons. The first has to do with quality assurance. For you to produce goods for export, the quality levels have to be very high. And also, I want to say that exporting agri products, even though they bring foreign exchange, but if they're not value-added agri products, it's not that much use from an economic diversification point of view, because their prices are not very high. You also have to understand the structure of world trade. This goes to the WTO, the World Trade Organization. The way the industrial powers have arranged the world economy today is that agriculture is only about 7 to 10% of world trade. 50 to 60% of world trade is trade in manufactured goods and services. So if you're exporting agricultural products, it's not a path to global economic competitiveness, because the very definition of economic transformation is a shift away from reliance on agricultural products towards industrial manufacturing. Now, you can put agro-industrial manufacturing in that bracket of industrialization, and then you're talking. So you have to know that the tariffs in the Western countries for raw materials is very low, but the tariffs for value-added goods is very high. When many of the European countries import cocoa, raw cocoa, with which they make chocolate, the tariffs are almost zero, because they want to encourage you to be exporting your raw materials. When they produce chocolate and sell back to you, it's far more expensive. And if you try to make your own chocolate and export it, the tariff barriers you will face are quite high. So the world trade is structured in a way that it works against developing countries like Nigeria. If you do not have this foundational understanding of the global economy, you cannot strategize to overcome this disadvantage successfully. So that's a foundational point that I'm making. So the reason we have problems with acceptance of the things we export, first of all, you have to ask, are these value-added things? If you're exporting yam tubers or if you're exporting cashew nuts, is that necessarily a competitive product? And even if you do, whether it's competitive or not, the quality must be of the highest order, because the Western countries are looking for every excuse not for you not to bring in your imports, but to sell you their own goods. So remember that. Then, talking about the agri value chain, this is something that we talked about with Sanusi and myself when we were at the central bank. We talked about it a lot, that we should encourage investors to come in and invest in the various parts of the agricultural value chain. Not just for the Ankoboroa program, as I know it is mostly a program lending money to farmers. That is really, at the end of the day, mostly subsistence agriculture. It doesn't address the value chain problem. It doesn't address the industrialization program. And the fact that we have turned the central bank, expanded its development finance to become the catch-all solution to every challenge we have in the Nigerian economy, and yet it's not working. So the central bank is being overburdened, and it's being overburdened because the state is failing. And so they look at the bank as their savior. And when you do that, the central bank is only one institution, and that's why many people think only about the central bank when they think about the Nigerian economy. We have a Ministry of Finance. You're not holding the Minister of Finance accountable. We have a Ministry of Agriculture. The central bank cannot be the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of this. No, the bank is overburdened, and that is one of the reasons that there are a lot of distortions that make all its best intentions not produce the results that they were intended to produce. So we have to bring in people who will invest in transportation of agricultural produce. That's one business place. The processing, the storage of agricultural products is a specific business line. The processing is a specific business line. The export is a specific business line. We have not yet been successful in creating an environment, to have investors come in these specific value chains and link them all up. This is what is lacking. So I think this is what we need to do. We need to create a policy environment that encourages investment in specific value chains, not just in saying to people, go and farm, come and take Ankoboroa money and go and farm. A lot of times when people borrow money from the Nigerian government, whether it's through the central bank, a lot of times they think this is a wolf money, it's free money. Sometimes even there is a sense that this is being used to play politics. And once you have this type of sense, the economic effect will never be what you intend, because there isn't as much accountability as there should be for those loans. Many people who shouldn't be getting them, who are business briefcase companies, they get it, maybe because they have political connections. So I don't see, some of these programs as being transformational, because they're not actually the right approach. The government itself cannot be everything to everyone in the Nigerian economy. And that's what we're trying to be through the central bank. The government is too involved. Create the space for private companies to come in and invest and provide capital. This is why I talk about venture capital, not just credit, because nobody wants to take credit in Nigeria because of interest rates that are high. And because of that, everybody runs to the central bank for low interest rate loans, and it becomes politically abused, which I suspect could be happening to the Ankoboroa's program. Suspect, I don't have evidence, but could be what is happening. So that's what I'm going to tell you about the Ankoboroa's program, about our products being rejected, about the agri value chain. It needs a complete redesign and a different approach. The private sector needs to come in, and the central bank needs to pull back more and more. Instead, the central bank is getting more and more involved in all these things. And yet, there's no transformation happening. So now, on the matter of square pegs in round holes, I think I talked about it when I said that when I become president, I will go for square pegs in square holes. And even where we want to make sure that we're taking into consideration political factors such as inclusion, such as federal character. If you want to appoint anybody, there must be a minister from every state. But nothing stops you as president from saying that I will not take ministers who do not meet this threshold of qualities and competence. Nothing stops you as the president. A governor cannot come to me as president and just shove a CV down my throat, and I take it without investigating the person behind the CV and his or her track record. I will not do it. After all, the Constitution gives me, as the president, the right to appoint my ministers. It doesn't say that the governor has to decide who your minister should be. But let us even say you want to be politically accommodating. You must still maintain a certain threshold. That's how you balance politics and governance. But many Nigerian politicians do not have this mindset. It's all about politics, no quality involved. The 3 tiers of government, yes. We talked about working with other parties. I said here that I would want to run for president with colleagues who are running down ballot for other positions, the Senate, the House of Reps, others. How many you can get in, it doesn't matter. The few who may make it or the many, that's good. But you must work with people of every party when you're president. You're the president of the country. You're not the president of your party. So I'm not going to have a very party-focused approach to leadership of Nigeria as the president. I'm going to be president of even those who are not in my party. I'm going to be president of even those who did not vote for me. And in doing so, I think you are able to govern far more effectively because you can build consensus. So I'm not worried about being president and 60% of the National Assembly may belong to other parties or 70%. It doesn't matter. The powers of the presidency are the powers of the presidency. And if you are a competent leader, you can collaborate with the members of the National Assembly to create consensus, working together with them, in consultation with them, to create a general objective that can be pursued for the benefit of the Nigerian people, regardless of political party. So I'm going to run something more like a government of national unity, not a government of any political party. I think that's the approach I would take. So people who are in PDP or APC, they don't have to worry about me. They will be involved in the governance of Nigeria if I become president. But there will be a vision that I will bring to the position. That's the difference, between what's happening now and what would happen if I was president. So I hope I've taken the questions.
Thank you so much, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. That's as much as we can take on today's exclusive interview powered by NewsBand Television. We have been discussing
ask you, Augusta, if you pardon me, please, Prof, will we crave your indulgence to hear from these two gentlemen who are still raising up their hand? What do you say, sir?
When what?
We have these two gentlemen raising up their hand. Will we crave your indulgence to hear from them before we?
Okay, my time is running very short, please. If they can keep their questions, one question each, please. I don't want a million questions in one. Just one question each, and I'll quickly address it, please.
Okay. One question asked together, then we hear from Prof, and then he concludes. Thank you. One minute.
Okay, Kabiru Muhammad Gwangwa, so please go ahead and try to keep it as short as possible.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate here again. And I want to apologize for not joining early enough. And at the same time, would like to extend my condolences to the team here over the death of a good friend, the former Deputy Governor Dr. Obadiah. May his good work continue even after him. And mine is first a brief comment on the topic I saw, because I wasn't part of it. I have no idea exactly what was discussed by the very erudite Professor Moghalu, whom we met at Mumbai House when he was contesting presidency ahead of 2019. And I'm sure he might recall my face then when I was one of those who contributed to when he addressed the people of Kano in a town hall meeting he held. My interest is what exactly, if it's not going to drag us back, what exactly is the vision of the guest concerning the 2023 alignments and realignments or whatever? Is he looking at the concept of those who are talking of one region working, one geopolitical zone working with another geopolitical zone? Or is he looking at one half of the country working with another half of the country? And if he is, whatever he's looking at, I would want him to, and all of us, to be cognizant of certain political realities. One, as I said in an earlier similar
Mr. Gwangwa, so kindly summarize. We've run out of time already.
All right. This moment, we should be cognizant of the reality that politics is about numbers, about voting patterns, one. And then two, we should be cognizant of another factor, that all those talking about a president on one side or on the other side are refusing to address the more rational position of what we should have is a president who would look at Nigeria, and who will have a mandate of a certain set of people, but who will come from somewhere, but who would be looking at someone who will be looking at us as a nation.
Yes.
Right. And finally, there is an aspect on VAT that I had someone commenting on after I joined, that states or areas that don't have.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed.
I'm thinking about VAT briefly.
All right, just summarize, and let us go to the next person, please.
I said VAT is about a tax on those who consume certain products that are sold in, and it is those areas who consume them that should have that percentage or whatever it is collected that goes to them.
All right, thank you so much. And kindly keep your comments to the comment section. Let us move on. Let us go to the next person, Marcel. Thank you so much, Mr. Gwangwa. Marcel, please keep it under a minute.
Yes, less than a minute works for me. So, Prof, I want to thank you very much. I am more than convinced now that Nigerian salvation relies in a precedent that emanates from the central bank. And I'm making it very clear because I've listened to you and I've listened to the ex-deputy governor from CBN. Now, you have in 1 minute summarized this book, Understanding the Global Economy. And that is the summary of everything I've learned in my current academic pursuit in the UK. But one thing comes on, which I asked my professor, that why doesn't this work in Africa? And then he made it clear to me that there is a game of believability, that the market has to believe in the national system of any country in order for them to move their money into that country. I need to hear some clarity from you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marcel. Let us listen to the Prof.
Okay, let me start with Marcel's question. Thank you for the compliment. I do believe very strongly that the next president of Nigeria must have a proper understanding, experience, and proven capacity in macroeconomic management. Because at some point we have to begin to ask ourselves, what is the quality of our lives? Not just, oh, this candidate comes from PDP, they produce an orangutan, we vote for him as president. APC produces a chimpanzee, we vote because we support APC. At what point are we going to start talking about ourselves as citizens and what we are benefiting from all this politics, if anything at all? Isn't it time for us to begin to present a vote for people who can actually govern and create an economy that creates prosperity for the millions of our youth who are unemployed. That is the issue for 2023. And that's why I have said, and this comes to Kabir Muhammad's question, for me, it's not about ethnicity. It's not about what part of the country you come from. It's about who can actually lead the transformation of Nigeria. I believe that that is the number one criteria that we should be looking at. But looking at Nigeria's peculiar situation, inclusiveness is also important. There are parts of the country that are feeling disenfranchised, feeling marginalized, and it would be a good thing if we give an opportunity for competent national leadership to emerge from those parts of Nigeria. A leader that will look at Nigeria as Nigeria, not just looking at Nigeria from the part of the country he comes from or she comes from, or looking at Nigeria from the perspective of his or her religion. No, but because he has to have that nationalistic mindset, that unifying ability. And I have, posited how my career in the UN, in the central bank, and my track record make me the person for that role at this trying time in Nigeria's history, and why the so-called experienced political leaders have actually not been able to deliver this, because the only way they thrive is by dividing us. That's the point. So you cannot bring dividers and give them the role of unifiers. How can they perform? They cannot perform. The only way they've gotten to the peak of where they are is by dividing, using ethnicity, using religion, using all sorts of sectarian tendencies, exploiting it. But I've told you that Nigeria has two parties, the politicians, the political elite, and the masses. So we have to start, the masses must now start thinking for themselves. Let's stabilize our country. Let's unify our country. Let's give a chance to a competent person, whether or not the person has been a career politician. And I will submit to you that running for president in 2018, running a campaign in which I visited 30 states out of 36 and campaigned, I did not go to the states that were seriously under threat from Boko Haram, because I did not have the resources to provide the security for myself and my team that was necessary. So I couldn't go to those states, and I can, that's just the reality. So if we can find the right kind of leadership and also find it in terms of a way that can heal the wounds of Nigeria, I think that would be a wonderful outcome, and that is what I think my candidacy can help with. I would be somebody who on his own, in my view, humble view, is qualified and prepared for the Nigerian presidency, regardless of where I come from in Nigeria. Anybody who has been me, I believe, is prepared to be president. But it could be that in view of our national history, the fact that I come from a certain part of the country could also be helpful in healing. Because you have to also build a nation. And that is also very important. So that's my answer. And I think I've taken, in terms of the market question that Marcel asked. You see, the economics of the West does not apply to the African continent. Why? It is because of the failure of political leadership in Africa. Because it is the political institutions that must first be strong and effective before the economic institutions can be effective. If you have a president who believes that the central bank can issue a public statement and that says the president has ordered the central bank to stop providing forex, you know that there is no hope for redemption, because such a president clearly does not even understand the concept that a central bank should be independent in its decisions and should not be taking dictations from Aso Rock. Why would investors, why would market participants have confidence in such an economy? That's the reason why your textbook does not apply to Nigeria. And if I was president, I understand your textbook and I've written a few. And if I do what I have said, then different results will come out. That's just a fact. So I hope I've addressed in this way both your question and Kabiru's question. Kabiru, I remember very well our encounter at Aminu Kanu house, I think it was in Kanu, when I had a town hall with the people of Kanu. I think in 2019 or 2018. And, Kanu for me is a place, I am sentimentally attached to Kanu for many reasons, but I have spent a lot of time in Kanu and engaged with people in that state. And I believe that if Kanu and a few other states like high population centers can make the right kinds of voting decisions in 2023, Nigeria could be on the path to redemption. But a lot of our publics need political education, whether in the North or in the South. Nigerians have been politically enslaved by the political elite. And until we set our minds free, we will not make the right kinds of leadership decisions. That's our task in 2023. And it's not a task for Kingsley Moghalu alone. It's a task for all of us who are on this program tonight. Please, everybody, it's our job. It's not just my job. Just like I said, if you want someone like me to be successful, write a check, not just tell me what I have not done. Money moves the cheese in politics. And like I said, I haven't stolen it anywhere. So if the people who support me do not write the checks, then we will be where we are. The people who have stolen your money will come and spend it again and come back to power, and we'll continue complaining. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be worse off. I can decide to go and become a professor at Harvard and turn my back on the whole setup. But, I'm not doing that. So that's where we are. But thank you for giving me the opportunity, and we can take any closing remarks now.
All right, thank you so much. That's as much as we can take on today's program. We have been discussing with an aspirant for the 2023 presidential election. He was a candidate for the 2019 presidential election. He is a Nigerian political economist. He was the former deputy governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, a former United Nations official. He is a politician, a lawyer, and an author. Thank you so much, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And on today's program, we have been